Well, welcome everyone to this episode of Stories for Healing. As you know, we've been running this program since the end of October, and here we find ourselves now in 2021. It's amazing. So many storytellers from around the world are stepping forward to help lend our voices to promote healing and reconciliation, not to tell you who's right and who's wrong or what's good and what's bad, but what really matters. And today I'm very pleased to have a storyteller for us from Ireland, Liz Weir. Liz, please, would you tell us a story?
I'd be delighted, Jim. I've been involved with stories and reconciliation for a long time, and part of any of the work I do is to help people feel better about themselves because then that helps them feel better about other people. So I'm going to share with you a story that's been very helpful to me during last year's pandemic and the ongoing situation that we're living through. And hopefully, other people might find it somewhat healing as well. The interesting thing, it was collected not far from where I live, here in the Glens of Antrim, northeast corner of Ireland, and yet I found the same story in a Vietnamese folktale book. So these stories crop up around the world. So here's my version anyway. A farmer and his wife lived in a small hill farm here in the Glens of Antrim. The land was very poor. They had sheep, and more sheep. They had a cow who gave them milk. They had a few chickens, for eggs. But things were going badly wrong. Everything was going wrong. The fences were broken down. The place needed painted. The cow wasn't given the proper yield of milk. The hens were off the lay. And the farmer, he just wasn't himself. What they used to say here was he wasn't at himself. But nowadays we call it depression. And he moped about. He wasn't fit to get out of bed some mornings. And he and his wife were sitting over a bite of lunch, and it was just poor fare. It was potatoes and buttermilk. That was all they had. When the door opened, and an old tramp came in. Now, in those days, you could have left your doors open. Men and women of the road would come. They would mend your pots and pans, maybe sell you some lucky heather, and they were always warmly greeted. So, of course, they brought the old man in, set him down at the table, and shared the poor lunch they were eating. And over the course of the meal, the farmer was telling all the things that had gone wrong. The cow, the chickens, the fences, everything. And the old man just listened. When he got up to go, he said, "I'd like to thank you for your kindness to me. You never turn anyone from your door, and I want to reward you." And they looked at him. How could this old man, his rags, help them? But out from his coat pocket, he brought a lump of gold. He said, "Perhaps that will help you." And he turned, it was gone. So the farmer looked at his wife and he said, "What are we going to do with this?" She said, "Bury it there by the hearth." And sure enough, in those days, they had the earthen floors, so they were able to bury the gold there. And then they talked about what they do with it. "Well, we get a new cow." "Not at all," said the farmer. "She's a very good milker. I think she'll come back to herself." "What about getting you some more hens?" She said, "Those hens, they'll be back on the lay before you know it." "I know," she said. "Everything's broken down here. We need fence posts. We need paint." He said, "I've got the paint. I've even got the fence posts out in the hay shed. I just haven't been feeling like it." And they talked. And the lovely thing about the story is you can say time passed. And a whole year went past. And this time when the tramp turned up, what a different face. Rooster crowing, hens strutting proudly over the midden, cow in the field with a new calf at foot. The place was painted up, everything looked fresh. When he walked in, there was meat and 2 veg on the table. Well, they greeted him warmly before. This was an old friend. They set him down and they shared what they had. And they said to him, "This is all down to you. This good fortune that we've come into is all because of you." Oh, he said, "What did you spend the gold on?" And a look passed between them and a smile. And the farmer said, "To tell you the truth, we didn't spend it at all. It's still buried there where we left it, under the hearth. All we needed was a little bit of a lift. And that's what you gave us." And the old man said, "Do you mind if I take it with me? Maybe the next place I go, someday there will want a little bit of a lift." And sure, Jim, isn't that how it is for all of us? Sometimes it's not somebody telling you how much of a grant you can get or a big thing. It's somebody just phoning you up and saying, "Come and have a cup of coffee. Come. Sure, I'll call round and see you. Even for socially distance, I'll be in the yard and we can talk." And that's why I find that story very healing. It's called A Wee Lift. And that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful story. They planted the gold, and the gold brought them what they needed without having to spend it at all. Yeah.
Just need a bit of faith, don't you? I think
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
it takes. No
Yeah.
matter what you believe in, I think if you just have a bit of faith, and if somebody shows you faith in you, that helps you. That's
Hmm.
what I say also in the context of some of the work I've done in the past. When you listen to another person's story, even if you diametrically are opposed to what they say or their point of view, at least when you listen to their story, you're granting them respect. You may
Yeah.
not agree with it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
at least just taking the time to listen to each other's stories, I believe, is very important.
Yeah. Now, and you're doing this work up in Northern Ireland as well, right?
Well, I've been born and bred here. I went to university in Belfast in 1969 when our troubles, as we call them, broke
Yeah.
out. And I was children's librarian there from 1976 through to 1990, so I've seen a bit of my time. And it's been my honour in a way to work with some of the people who've been much worse affected by the troubles than me. I've worked with victims, and I've also worked with perpetrators in the
Hmm.
prisons, political prisoners, and so on. Some of those people are out and they're in Parliament. So I think to encourage them to share stories, but more importantly, to listen to other people's stories, I think that's a way forward for everyone, no matter what the conflict is, whether you're talking about bullying or whether you're talking about street crime,
Right.
the listening is important.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And one other thing I would just say, and I'm sure you would agree, that it's also healing for us as storytellers to tell these stories, not just for the people who hear them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really believe that well, we're human beings, you know. When the pandemic struck, I went into deep depression. When you're used to traveling the world as I was doing, and all of a sudden you're virtually housebound in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere as I'm living up in a very rural area, it hit me really hard, and I thought, what can I do? And if I'm feeling like this, other people are feeling like this. So I started a weekly session, and now we've got 80 people zooming in from all around the world. It's quite remarkable. And it helps me. I mean, people are saying thank you to me, but I'm thanking them because as storytellers, we need to feel nourished. You can't be giving out all the time, you have to be taking in as well. Something I try and tell younger storytellers, you have to have self care.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Well, and that's led me to launch this program. Same idea,
Sure.
same nourish each other, but nourish myself as well. All right. Well, everyone, um, another episode of Stories for Healing with a message I think we all can really resonate with, that sometimes we don't need a huge solution to the big problem, but just a little lift up, a little step up to make the world manageable for us. And know that that's something that any of us can give anyone else. You don't have to be rich or famous or anything else. You just have to be another person with an open heart. So I want to invite you to review the list of all of these that sit on YouTube. You can also watch them on Facebook. Um, but reach out and give someone else a little lift up in the days to come. Thanks again.